processing, you can make $1,000 or more of extra bonuses. All right, we're going to try something really fun. It's fast, quick, easy. Here's the deal. If you submit business on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, let's make it Tuesday. We will send you fresh and new merch. Don't worry, we've got all kinds of it. And those who are the top 5 deal submitters during this time will get the ultimate merch package, everything we have. We've got golf balls.
Can't hear you, Nate.
Thank you for telling me that. I had muted myself because I was checking the sound levels and forgot to unmute. I'm Nate Manahan, but I am joined by let's just call them. They're the pinup calendars of payments, Mr. Danny Shard and Mr. Brian Linke. Let's go to Danny Shard. Danny, how are you, sir? How is life back in Colorado after being gone for a little time?
It's good. It's good to be back on the high five. I was in Indiana for a week. Family and I took a few days off for the 4th of July holiday, so been kind of a whirlwind last couple of weeks, as most of the partners know that I work with on a regular basis. But it's good to be back, and good to see you guys on here.
It is good. It is great to be back. And Mr. Brian Linke, have you survived? Are you back to 100% after a whirlwind of a 4th week?
Well, first of all, I've never been called a pinup before, Nate, but so I appreciate that. Second of all, spending a week with Danny Shard, it's going to take me at least 2 weeks. I find myself falling asleep in my office at times, nodding off, just because I'm so exhausted from because you got to buckle your seatbelt when D Shard's in town. So, but no, we had a lot of fun, and it's always good to see Danny.
It is. I'm sure you're recovering. It is time to go like full bore. Let me go back to my screen. Into the third quarter. It kind of sneaks up in the third quarter because the 4th of July, everything's kind of going on. The first week of July, a lot of people take vacations. I took some time off. People are just kind of getting things moving, and suddenly you realize we're in the third quarter. What we do right now preps us for the highest volume months of the year, and it is time for us to get moving into this third quarter, to get our energy moving. We're already seeing ourselves in the green. You guys are doing a great job, but we thought we'd bring some ideas here that would help you think through things you should be doing in the third quarter to make sure that you are maximizing your 2022. And as I said in the email this morning, you saw the fireworks on 4th of July. We want to make sure when you see the fireworks on New Year's Eve that you are celebrating a year of successes and exceeding your goals, not looking back and thinking, man, I should have done a little bit more. We're ready for this. You guys ready to talk a little bit about third quarter ways to maximize?
Let's go.
Absolutely.
I can't believe it's the third quarter. Wow.
I know. Well, number one, if you can't believe, it is time to start thinking through some of the things you're going to do and present to your current merchants and prospective merchants that are holiday promos. I'm thinking things like gift cards. I'm thinking things like thinking through inventory, those who might need MCAs. Danny, if you prepare now, people make these decisions in the next 2 months for what they're going to do in the fourth quarter. And a lot of times I'm as guilty as anyone, stumbling into the fourth quarter, not being prepared. How important is it to start now and make sure you have those offerings and you know what you have available to offer to your merchants that help them in the fourth quarter?
Well, and I love that we're talking about it now. I think for the last couple of years, we always tend to talk about this, but it's always in the fourth quarter, right? We're starting to talk about it beginning of October. And at that time, people have already made most of the decision that they're going to make going into the holiday. When you get into those months, a lot of folks are not wanting to implement new things into their business. They're not wanting to take those types of or make those types of changes because they know that we don't want to shake anything up right now. If it's not broke, don't fix it. We'll do it at the end of the year, at the beginning of next year. So I love that you're talking about this now, Nate, and you're bringing this up. There's a lot that we can think about. I mean, MCAs is a really good one that you can start talking about merchants, and a lot of this right now is planting the seeds with your current merchant base, as well as merchants that are in your pipeline that you've been talking to for some time and maybe haven't gotten to convert over. Maybe they're using a competing point of sale system. They're waiting for their contract to end. Maybe you're just waiting for them to have a really bad experience so you can capitalize on it. But keep planting those seeds, especially with your current clients more than anything, because competitors are definitely going to do that, right? And if anything sounds appealing to them, it's going to help that, or it's going to make them consider switching on you. So talk to them about MCAs and having cash available right now with the increased cost of inventory, gas prices, tough to get inventory in general. You want to talk to merchants about needing capital to even help them through this holiday season if things are getting more expensive for them, just so they can kind of maintain, right? So talk to them about that. Talk to them about gift cards if they don't have it. Gift cards are something that we've talked about for 15 years, but it's still a hot topic and people still want to buy them. So talk about these things and try to get into these merchants. You know, Brian and I talked about this a while back. Is these merchants that we do the fireworks stands, right? Or Nate, me and you talked about it. Sorry, I think, but that's the fireworks stands. It's the pumpkin patches. It's these types of places. Now is when you need to start getting into those conversations, planting those seeds, and start preparing for what's going to come, because it's going to come quick.
It is. And Brian, I'm going to have you take the second one here. It's to reach out to past prospects. And you don't always have to do it in the third quarter, but I think it's important to make sure that you have certain points in your year where you think through, how am I going to reach out to the people that I've already been with that maybe said no, maybe they gave you a specific time. I'm going to call me back later, but look at your pipeline and say, man, if these people are still in business, there's still an opportunity and a prospect. What would you do if you're looking to reach out to people that, you know them, you've had contact with them, but they haven't closed yet? What would be some things you would do, Brian, to kind of make that move in the third quarter?
Well, let me just back up just 1 second about this is the time of year too that we're having a heat wave throughout the entire country, right? So like a lot of people are hesitant to get out and even start thinking about the holiday season. So if you've got to get mentally tougher, get out there. I know it's hot, but getting to your past prospects though. It's so funny. I've been a sales guy since the beginning of time, and it's just so funny. Like, you think about calling that prospect, you think about calling the people that, and you just never do it. Right. You just, okay, they're going to say no. It's so funny though, to me that, once you get up the strength and the mental toughness to actually make that call or go knock on that door, how many sales you actually get out of it. Right. Because a lot of people, it takes a little bit of time. They're not ready at the time that, the timing is off, right? You hit them at the wrong time, the pandemic, this, that, with the other thing. And all of a sudden you dig down deep. That's basically what it is, right? I mean, you're digging down deep and you make that call. And I'm telling you right now, you'll be surprised at how many sales you get that way. Why? I don't think there is a reason why. I just think that it is what it is, and I just think that a lot of selling is timing, right? A lot of selling is timing. So you may have hit that person at the wrong time, that company at the wrong time, and I just think that couple months, 3 months, 6 months go by, and you touch base back with them. I'm telling you now, you will get sales that way just because the timing was wrong at the time.
It's all about just taking the step, get off the couch, go do something, get that workout. And the other thing I didn't really mention in this one is not only can you reach out to past people that, maybe it wasn't the right time then, but to your current merchants, reach out to them for referrals. And for your current merchants that aren't currently on edge pricing, they're not doing a dual pricing model, and we know they're getting hit as inflation is increasing, pricing is increasing of their inventory. They're having to figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to manage that, what they're going to do in their store, in their restaurant, in their place of business. Danny, introducing your current merchants that are on Interchange Plus or tiered pricing to an edge opportunity is a huge win in the third quarter, right, Danny?
We've seen a lot of partners being able to convert existing books of business that were on traditional pricing And most of them have been able to convert them in these months, right? When you get into the later part of the year, when you get into that part where business is booming, fees are increasing, everything is more expensive. Merchants are flipping into these cash discount programs. And the majority of merchants that we see with these types of programs, liquor stores, restaurants, auto repair, just to name a few, florists. I mean, these merchants, they should have been doing this all along, right? And if they're not doing it, it's probably just not being explained to them properly where they can actually turn this into a benefit to their customers, right? Right now is the opportunity to go after these merchants. And we still have a lot of merchants that are on traditional pricing. And I know any of you listening have a lot of merchants that you've processed for a long time. And you're just, maybe they've told you several times that they're not going to do that. They're not going to position their business that way. They're not going to pass through anything additional to their customers for using a card as much as they want to try to say it's a discount for paying with cash. I'm telling you, continue to talk to them about it because every competitor is hitting these merchants hard, right? And right now, again, not to repeat myself, but we have to keep saying this. All these businesses are really starting to feel these cost increases over the last couple months that we've seen and this inflation that we're seeing, and they're going to feel it even more going into these holiday months. They're going to have to do something to keep their doors open and minimize their overhead, and payment processing fees are one of them. And if they're not doing it right now, they need to consider it. So even those merchants that you've talked to already that have adamantly said no, continue talking to them about it because somebody's going to walk in there and catch them after they get that bill. The first, the second, the third days of the month are the best for sales because they just got their bill from the previous month, right? Some of these merchants are going to get their bill and say, gosh, I know he's talked to me about it, but I've had it with paying these processing fees. And someone's going to walk right in and offer it to them and they're going to switch. So we've got to keep planting these seeds. We've got to keep having these conversations with merchants, especially coming up into this time of the year.
It is so important. And one of the other things that you can set yourself apart, that edge conversation is extremely important. And then what I always say is if everybody in your industry in your area is selling lemonade, sell some iced tea. If everybody's selling hot dogs, sell some hamburgers, or vice versa. Whatever, bring something to the table that is different, that sets yourself apart. That is learning some new products and specifically getting into the e-commerce and B2B space. And I put 3 of our products, ChargeZoom, PayTrace, BigCommerce, where we provide an opportunity to get into that level 2, level 3, to get into those really large. BigCommerce runs the back end for some of the largest e-commerce, but is really user-friendly for the small SMBs. And I have a training coming up next week on BigCommerce. Look for that coming in. But Brian, coming over to you, one of the things you can do is learn some new products and set yourself apart, something that someone else isn't offering. If everybody's offering the same thing, it's hard to set yourself apart. And I know that's what you've done. You've used that your whole career.
I have, and the thing about PayProTech is, and I think and I hear it every single day when I take partners to mypayprotect.com is, there's not a lot out there like that, and it's something that Nate, you should be proud of, and some of our back office people should be proud of because you upper left hand corner menu, drop down e-commerce, click on it, takes you right to all 3 of those. You click on those, it takes you right to their site, and it's just another way to to learn more about the products and not just with e-commerce, but with Edge, the videos that we do. All of those things are things that a lot of these other ISOs are not offering and do not have, and they're just asking their agents to kind of just learn it on the fly. And mypayprotect.com is an amazing tool for our partners to use.
Well, and Brian, I want to use you as a good example of this because you have a good book of business locally as well as around the country. And how many of your merchants have you had success converting to cash discount that were completely adamant against it?
A lot of them. I mean, especially lately. And I was so funny because one of them who the 5-6 location restaurant. I was actually, this was about 3 years ago, when cash discounting 4 years ago, maybe. And somehow we got him a new terminal and the 4% was on there. And I'm sitting there, it was on the weekend, it was my son's wrestling match. and I got a phone call from the owner screaming and yelling at me about like this lady left her order there because she didn't want to pay it was a $30 order and she didn't want to pay the what is that 40 $1.20 something like that extra, and I almost lost the business. Well, here we are, fast forward 3 years later, and I just converted all six of his restaurants because he's finally realized that, like, okay, lots of transactions, small to medium size, right? And nobody cares. Okay, and even if they do, and even if he loses the 5%, the 10% of people, it still doesn't. He's paying $2,000 a location in fees. It doesn't even come close to reaching that level. And again, it's just one, right, Dan. Like it's going back to the person who screamed at me 3 years ago because we accidentally put it on there when it shouldn't have been. We took it off. Everything was good, but I went back 3 years later, and now we've got six locations all doing cash discount. And he does about $35,000 to $40,000 a month per location. Small little restaurants, but you know what? If you start adding up the residual on a $40,000 merchant six times, it's a game changer.
Yeah, you're going from making 400 or 500 a month to 2,500 a month,
That's
right? And
exactly
I think
right.
it's something that we all need to remember, and COVID taught us this, is business owners are going to make the changes needed for their business to keep their doors open. So many merchants flocked to cash discounts and dual pricing and edge type of programs during COVID because they had to stay afloat, right? And doing things like this was a requirement to keep their business open. They had to minimize as much overhead as possible. What it also created is it also created an empathetic consumer. We knew as consumers what these businesses were up against to keep their doors open, right? We rallied behind them. We understood if they needed to change pricing models to cover certain things, and that's what these businesses did, and that's what we did as a consumer to support these businesses. Same thing I kind of see as we kind of are going into a later part of this year. There's so much unknown, but I think we can kind of see the writing on the wall for how expensive everything is getting. Is these business owners that aren't doing this today, they're going to have to do something. Those merchants that are already doing something, they've already adjusted their budgets, and they're absorbing their processing fees, or they're covering their processing fees, excuse me. We're going to have to think of outside of the box ways to help them as well, right? Is it things that are going to make them more efficient, better point of sale systems, gift card programs, Nate, like you mentioned, capital through programs like Cash Buoy? These are going to be things that we need to do to help these businesses. If we've already helped them in eliminating